Folks, welcome to another Shop Talk, and we are up in Clinton County, Trimble, Missouri. Once again up here in God's land up north. Man, the air is fresh out here. Nice drive, corn's tall.
Yeah.
But tonight, we're here with Chad Shaw, and we're going to talk about Chad's racing career. And Chad, you might say, kind of are a Peeler prodigy is what I'm going to call it, because you were following Jim Peeler around for a while when he was racing up around Jamesport in that area.
Yeah, he's the one blamed for all this. So, you know, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's yeah, Jim Peeler's the one to blame for all this. So
yeah,
it's his fault. Whatever happens is his fault.
I was going to say, there's always somebody that introduces us to this stuff, and it seems like once you get started, I hate to compare it to a drug addict, but once you get into it, man, you can't hardly get away from it.
Yeah, it's tough. We've tried before, and boy, you end up in the same old spot.
In 2000 is when you actually pick up your first car, and it's a mid-70s Nova, and toward the end of the season in 2000, you do make it down to I-35 and start racing down there. And I think you were telling me 40, 50 cars a night. Man, that had to have been something just to get into the feature.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the pits were, just completely full of stock cars. And it wasn't your two-barrel cars. I mean, just the biggest horsepower you could find with a four-barrel carburetor. That's what guys were running. And that Nova that we had, it just would have been an Oldsmobile. I mean, it was terrible. The front end would bounce all over the place. It'd pick the left front tire up, a leaf spring car. Yeah. And it wasn't because it was fast, it was because it was wore out.
2001, you do make a full season at I-35, and is there anything that stands out in your mind about that year in particular?
Yeah, we actually took that car, and it was bad enough when we first started racing it that if you walked by it, you needed a tetanus shot. So I got with
a lot of rough edges. Is that what you're saying? You might get cut.
Yeah, it wasn't safe to back in the shop, let alone drive it out of it. But Peeler, I got with him in the end of 2000, and we decided to gut it and put a complete Peeler roll cage in it. And why we done it to a mid-70s Nova instead of the Monte Carlo, the faster cars back then. But we did it, and that was kind of, that was our winter project for 2000 to 2001.
I was going to say, just sitting around, you got to do something. So, hey, let's put a new roll cage in there. 2004, you do take a few years off in there.
Sure.
Doing some other stuff. But 2004, in April or May of that year, all of a sudden you show up at Hoffman's Race Shop down in Organa, I think is how Organo, Missouri, with your trailer and cash in hand or whatever, and you buy a Hoffman car. Yeah.
I talked with Jerry a couple times. I'd been looking on the internet for one, and a buddy of mine had run along pretty good with it, and I thought, I'll try one of those. And at that time, Jim wasn't building those, so I went out and done my research and ended up with one of those. Yeah,
and there's a good story too. I want you to talk a little bit about the motor in that. I think is that the one that was called
Milkshake? Yeah. It was quite a deal. I'd bought the car, and it needed just a little bit of stuff, and I wanted to go through it and kind of learn some things about it, because it was I was new to a modified. So it was sitting here in the shop, and I'd done all my stuff to it, and just kind of hurrying up and waiting. And I was going to wait and build a nice motor over the winter and stuff. And just so happens, me and Peeler were talking. Jim was talking one night, and he said, Chubby, he said, we can put a motor together. He said, I've got some stuff. And when Jim tells you he's got some stuff, he got some stuff. Yeah. He got a whole pile of it. But he started dragging pieces and parts from places. I don't know where they come from. I think that some of them come out of the river bottom. They've been buried for years. But anyway, we ended up putting this motor together for $200. We put rings and bearings in it, and he had, the rods were all mixed, and the pistons were kind of mixed, and it was a thrown together deal. And he told me, he goes, it might shake a little bit. We took it out the first night and flogged it, and I ain't kidding you, it'd shake you clear out of the car. It was something. So we got home, and just after the first night, decided to go ahead and drop the oil out of it. Thought, well, we'll check it. Milky color. So right then's when it got the nickname Milkshake, and we got 4 nights out of that old girl. It was kind of sad to see it blow up.
2005, you start running the car full time, mostly IMCA at I-35, but you're also running at Osborne against the full-blown A mods, and you come away with back-to-back feature wins, one at Osborne and the following night at 35.
Yeah, that was pretty tough. Trying to keep back then. The claims were, it was a possibility. A very good possibility to get claimed, and we had claimer stuff in, and we was taking it to Osborne and running it on Friday night with the guys that there was no claim, and the rules were steel heads.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And we got lucky and snuck over there and got one, and then went out the next night and got one over at 35 with the IMCA and the same motor and same everything.
In 2006, it's kind of a year. You do get one feature win at I-35, and you're the Northwest Missouri champion, and I guess that's a combination of the tracks up in Northwest Missouri.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Winston, which is I-35, and Osborne.
Yeah,
tracks.
I wish they'd go back and change the records and just make it I-35.
Yeah, I mean, it's Hummingbird, I-35, Winston. Yeah. Most people know where it's at.
Right, they know what it is, but it would sure save a lot of confusion. I know. Well, forget it. Okay, 2007. You are out racing, as you say, just about anything you can tow the car to, and you make it to August, and then the burnout hits.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it hit like a ton of bricks. It'd been a rough year, and we'd won the dickens out of heat races. We could win those, but man, we just couldn't get the deal closed. And finally, August rolled around, and I just got to the point where I was tired. I mean, we'd run up and down the road every Friday and Saturday night. We got rained out one time, and we was already at the racetrack when we got rained out. So you start in April and you run that hard that long, something's bound to give, and I was the one to give.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of time. It's not only towing to the track and back and being there, but a lot of it too is the hours in the shop that you got to put in to keep up with running that much. And I think that stuff really gets to you after a while. I know me working on my little cars, I get sometimes so tired of it, I think, why am I doing this? But I can understand the burnout part. 2008, you still only run about 4 times, and you're running a Blake Peeler shocker chassis, but you're still just a stock car. You're still just not getting the feeling, and that more or less gets you up to 2009, and we definitely want to get into the Johnson Racing Team part of this deal, and that's when you do start with the Johnsons. And also, that is a car that is 14 years old. Yeah. And it's a Sartison car, I believe, and you're referred to it as the UPS car. Yeah,
it did last year. We got into it. I think it was about mid-season last year, and there's been different people drive the car, and nobody could ever get it to turn left. If you could ever get it to bend around the corner, man, it'd go like a streak off the corner. But we never could get it to bend around the corner. So in lies the torch. We fired the torch up last winter, and
this is Peeler again, by the way.
Yeah, and that's one guy that you don't ever walk out the shop door. If he's got the torch fired up on your race car, you do not walk out the shop door.
Don't leave a piece of metal around, because he's going to burn it or something.
You bet. Yeah, he's not going to burn it. He's going to cut it off. You'll come back and your car will be outside in the pile, and walk in, there's a 2-foot stick of pipe, and he's telling you we're going to start here. But I've seen the guy take complete junk, and when he got done with it, it was a nice car, and actually a car that would go.
Yeah. To give everybody just a little bit of idea, I think you took 150 feet.
About 150 feet of pipe out of the original car.
I mean, I don't understand why you just didn't build a new car.
Well, see, back to the Nova, we're not that smart. We chase each other around in a circle on a dirt track. We're not that smart.
We're going to have to just touch on this real quick, but in 2010, 3 feature wins. Things have really turned around. It looks like, it might be coming for Johnson Racing and Chad Shaw, I'm sorry. But Chad, I'm sorry, we've got you down to 30 seconds here. I don't know if you're going to have time to mention all the sponsors you'd like to mention.
Oh, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike and Kyle Johnson, Jim and Blake Peeler with Shocker Chassis in the body shop, Johnson Ridge Subdivision, Lee Rogers with Hometown Racing Machine, Coca-Cola, C&I Sign Works, and just, everybody that helps us week in and week out.
Okay. All right, I hope that's all of them, because we've got to wrap it up. Folks, we're going to have to wrap it up at Shop Talk for this week.